So I had to drop a bonus video about this one because I really want to talk to all you guys about this. In Volume 4 of the collected manga in Japan, there's a brand new interview with Toriyama and Toyotaro discussing Dragon Ball Super, the manga, and a lot of really interesting tidbits that none of us knew any of this about the behind the scenes process, kind of how the manga's written, Toriyama's original manuscript for it. You know, to clarify before we go into this topic, I want to say that a lot of folks talk about canon and all that stuff. When it comes to Dragon Ball Super, the way it works, and I've said this before, but some of you are new to the channel, Toriyama writes a manuscript of the story, gives it to Toyotaro and Toei, and then they kind of write around their own story and they create their own version of the story. Well, this has opened up a lot of eyeballs as far as some shocking surprises that were, and it really shows that Toriyama's not the only one writing this, dude, at all. Like, you cannot blame Toriyama. If you're out there, you have to understand, Toriyama is the creative lead, but he's not. There are so many things that Toyotaro and Toei are both adding to this story that you can't even use the word canon because there is no original manga from Toriyama. It's just Toyotaro and Toei doing their adaptation of his manuscript. So, I want to get into this interview real quick and some of the tidbits that I found interesting. Now, credit goes to Yanko. He scanned the original piece right here from the original interview from the manga, and then Herms translated it. Now, let's go ahead and talk about this because I think this is very interesting. I wanted to share it with you guys and have a discussion. So it says here, this is Herms' highlights of the interview. Toyotaro got the inspiration for Goku Black from copies of the hero characters like Fake Ultraman, Fake Kamen Rider, and Kamen Rider Black. Basically, what he's talking about is sort of like how they have Bizarro Superman, you know, or what was the evil Darkwing Duck? Negaduck? That'll pop some older people. That's where he got the idea from Goku Black. You know, again, an evil Goku, a bad main character, a twisted version, you know. So that's interesting. Moving forward, this is a big one right here. Goku and Vegeta didn't fuse in Toriyama's original draft. That is huge. Toyotaro says that to meet fan expectations, it was therefore necessary to create a situation where they had no choice but to fuse, since their personalities would probably prevent them from ever fusing again after the Buu arc. Toriyama says it's a good idea. So again, folks, if you have any doubts in your mind that Dragon Ball Super is providing fan service and building itself on nostalgia and popping the old fans, this right here will wipe all of that away. There is no question. And again, I'm not saying that's a bad thing necessarily. Hear me out. But basically what this says is Toyotaro said to meet fan expectations, a.k.a. we put Vegito in this because he's popular. That's why Vegito was in the manga, which of course makes me wonder, Caulifla and Kale, is that in Toriyama's original version of the story, or is that just something that Toei wants to do? And remember, Vegito's in both the anime and the manga, so they both decided to use Vegito. And I had thought that it was Toriyama's idea, but no. Again, this is groundbreaking, guys, because this is like, I've been talking about this for a while now, but some people just, you know, they don't really understand where I'm coming from here. Toriyama's notes for these arcs are very, very simple. Most of the series is being written by other people than Toriyama. That's just how it is. So when you want to sit there and say, like, compare Super to GT, they're a little bit more similar than you can imagine. They really are. Toriyama's more involved here, but still, it's not, he's probably like 25% involved compared to everybody else. So that's interesting. Vegito was not Toriyama's idea. Moving forward. As part of the above, Toyotaro says that Zamasu wasn't all that strong in Toriyama's original draft. Though immortal, 2 Super Saiyan Blues could handle him. This might be the part Toyotaro mentioned it on Twitter, supposed to say merge Zamasu. So, that's interesting. So basically, now we knew that Zamasu was not that strong, but he was just immortal. If you remember the arc, you know, Zamasu was not that powerful. It was just that he was immortal. But apparently, even when they fused into making merge Zamasu, 2 Super Saiyan Blues, Goku and Vegeta separately could have taken this dude out in the original story. So that's interesting to me that, again, Toriyama never intended for him to be that powerful, which, to be honest with you, again, in my opinion, I don't like that. I like the idea of what they did by making him more powerful. Because, and that would kind of explain why Goku by himself and his Kamehameha was able to deflect Merge Zamasu. Like, that tells me that, again, Toriyama's going with this whole thing where the good guys are really, really strong, stronger than the bad guys, more often than not. And I personally don't like that because you got to have a strong villain to make the good guys work harder and try harder. See what I'm saying? I don't know if y'all feel me on that one, but Toriyama originally was like, no. Goku and Vegeta could handle Merge Zamasu, but he's immortal. That was the so. In other words, the story thread, like the old plot point here, was that Zamasu was an immortal, but not that he was strong. Kind of like the Garlic Jr. thing during the Garlic Jr. saga, where we saw, and again, that was not Toriyama, but we saw how Garlic was not that strong, but the fact that he was immortal made him difficult to beat. That was Toriyama's idea, but Toyotaro said, screw it, let's make him even more powerful, which again, people complained about them nerfing the fusion, the Potara fusion, how Potara fusion doesn't seem to be as strong as it used to be, which makes sense, of course. I agree with that statement. But Toyotaro wanted to actually save it a little bit, so I found that interesting as well. Moving forward, next page. Trunks training in the Kaioshin realm and getting healing powers were Toyotaro's ideas. That I figured because that was nowhere in the manga. I'm sorry, nowhere in the anime. In the anime, it stated that Supreme Kai helped Trunks, but not that, like, he became a Kai, he learned how to heal. That was all extra stuff for the manga. This confirms it. Now, this is the least kept secret ever, right? If you've been following my channel, you know where I'm going with this one. Vegeta going Super Saiyan God was also Toyotaro's idea, but Toriyama says he edited, supervised it. So, I've been saying it from the beginning, and you've been reading the manga, you know this. You know that Toyotaro's a fanboy for the red-haired God form. He keeps bringing it back more than the anime did. This confirms it. Okay, let's give Vegeta the red-haired God form. Wasn't even Toriyama's idea. Toriyama wanted Vegeta to skip that. Like, Toriyama always skips forms, right? He skipped freaking phase, stage 3. He skipped freaking SS3. And now he skipped red, or whatever, God. Toyotaro gives it to him. I'm okay with this, though. Like, I was alright with this. Keep going here. Many of the twists and turns leading up to Goku's final showdown with Zamasu were also Toyotaro's ideas, but they don't go into further specifics. So, this is about the manga version, which is, I think what they're talking about is more so how they kept going back and forth through time. Now, if you remember, which a lot of you guys probably don't, because this was like a year and a half ago, probably, when they first talked about the anime version of this arc, Toriyama had been working on this arc for quite some time. There was talk that Toriyama spent months on this arc. I now don't believe that anymore, because it seems like what he did is he gave them a very, very basic outline of a story. Villain comes back in time. We find out it's a Supreme Kaioshin that went rogue and all that stuff, and then they filled in the blanks. So at the end of the day, the plot holes when it comes to the time travel stuff and any kind of criticisms that you may have about the time travel stuff is probably Toei and not Toriyama, even though I can't say that with absolute certainty. I cannot say that. Nonetheless, it tells me here that, again, Toriyama has much less input than we all thought he did, which is interesting to me. Dragon Ball's always been a lot of people working on it at once. His editors had some say. Obviously, even his daughter gave him suggestions, right? Like, all these things play factors and whatnot. But here we know that with Super, people will scream Toriyama's name when something goes bad. It might not even be his fault, bro. It might not. Last paragraph here. For the future Trunks arc, most of the Toriyama-approved Toyotaro manga rough drafts on the first go-round. Most of the time, Toriyama approved Toyotaro's manga rough drafts on the first go-around, but he did offer corrections at times. So again, the way it works is, for the manga, Toriyama and Toyotaro are always talking, and he's giving him like ideas, and they're kind of going back and forth. And Toriyama's like, I like that, I don't like that, etc. Says here, he says that while before Toyotaro was just chasing after my Dragon Ball, now he's starting showing his own color. So it's more so like Toyotaro's becoming his own writer, not just trying to be like Toriyama. And that's the thing. I've seen people say things like, the anime is more canon. It's really not. If your definition of canon is Toriyama's involvement, the fact that he's talking to Toyotaro more often than not tells me that the manga is closer to Toriyama's vision than the anime is. And that's just it. Even though he's not drawing the manga or even writing the actual story, like, every story beat, he's more involved here. from what we know. So if somebody's out there and they're saying the anime's more canon, that is incorrect. Yes, the manga did start as promotional material for the anime. That's absolutely true. But it's changed. And that's what Toriyama's saying right here, that this is no longer just Toyotaro playing Toriyama and, you know, trying to be like, I guess like trying to be, you know, the next generation, or like, you know, just promoting this for the anime. No, he's got his own story. Says here he thinks Toyotaro's battle scenes were a bit too careful and that it'd be better if he drew them with a rougher touch. So he's basically saying that he thinks Toyotaro should make more violent manga, which makes sense because if you guys remember, manga chapter 29 with the God Battle Royal was some of the bloodiest and most violent stuff. So I feel like Toriyama gave Toyotaro this advice, and Toyotaro took it and is now making the manga much more hardcore, which is going to be great for all of us because the anime is always going to be a little bit more PG-13, a little bit more toned down because of various reasons like Japanese television standards and government and whatnot, and the time slot. But for the manga, Toyotaro has much more creative reins. And I've talked about how he kind of screwed up a lot in this arc. I thought the Trunks arc of the manga had cool ideas, but the execution was horrible. But it's good to know now that it's not all Toriyama, but Toriyama is much more involved in the manga than he is the anime. It's almost like Toyotaro's a student, and he's giving Toriyama like what he's got, and Toriyama's kind of saying, I like this, I don't like this. But I don't think they're like having debates over it. It's just kind of like he's giving his 2 cents, and then Toyotaro can take that advice and choose what he wants to do with it. So that's the story of Dragon Ball Super, how it's produced. I think this is a major breakthrough. Great interview in Volume 4. Viz Media will have an English version of this sometime next year. So look forward to that. We're going to get the full, you know, English collective volume sometime in 2018. For now, the Japanese one is out. They get everything first, and this is what we got from it. So thank you for checking out the video. Let me know your thoughts. What do you think about all this, the way it works, the production? Later tonight, it's Halloween, folks. It's Halloween. I got a video coming out about a classic Dragon Ball character that nobody ever talks about anymore, but I think deserves some love. It's a Geekdom Quickie. I hope you enjoy that. Coming up later tonight. Have a great one. I'll see y'all soon. Tonight.